Good day, everybody. Today I have a friend that has joined me on a conference call that I met through an online law class for teaching common law. For the purpose of this interview, my friend will remain anonymous, and she's going to go by the name of Jade. The reason Jade is remaining anonymous is even though she's gaining confidence with understanding who she is and how much lawful power she holds, she still doesn't have the confidence to reveal her true identity. And I told her that I understand that completely. You know, it's a subject that's pretty sensitive to a lot of people, and the IRS creates a lot of fear. But when I get finished, or when we get finished with her training, she'll not only reveal her true identity, but she'll be willing to put her picture online. For that, I'm not going to have her introduce herself right now like you would normally do because she's anonymous, but you'll know a little bit more about her as we progress. And then when we do a final video, we'll let her reveal a little bit more. My first question for Jade is just to ask you what prompted you to take the common law class.
So some of my family members were experiencing issues with the mask mandates with their children in school. And then also I had other family members who were dealing with vaccine mandates on the horizon at their workplace. And then I personally was dealing with a correspondence issue with the IRS that was really not making much sense to me at all.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, and before I go any further, I always forget this. My typical disclaimer is that anything that I say or anybody says on any of my calls, if you take that knowledge and try it, you do it at your own liability, your own risk. We are truthful in what we say. I don't typically share anything unless I've proven it myself. I know I spend a lot of money paying a lot of people to help me do a lot of things to find out that they don't work. But I don't blame them. I'm the one that chose to do it. So if you decide to take anything away from this this video, you do so at your own liability, your own risk. If you get in trouble, hey, call me. I'll try to help you out. But I'm not your knight in shining armor. I'm no guru. I don't want anybody to think I'm a guru. I just share what I know, and look forward to seeing people get free through the knowledge that we share together. This is not a one-man show. Okay, next question. What made you reach out to me?
Well, we were in a common law course together, and I did not know you at that time. It's an online course, and I wasn't really getting anywhere or getting any help on the things that I needed help with in the course when I would ask the instructors. Some of the material was really confusing. I posted on the group page regarding the issues that I was having, in particular with the IRS, and the letter that I was attempting to write, or the correspondence I was trying to write to them. And Wic reached out and had me call him to explain things better and how I should be approaching it. I had the knowledge, but I really wasn't, I knew I was being abused by the system, but I just didn't know how to respond to it.
Gotcha. And going forward, I'm, as you can see in the background here, the beautiful valley. Well, it's not really a valley. I'm right next to a river in the mountains of North Carolina. So occasionally a car comes by here. We're way up in the mountains, so I might have to ask Jade, if you hear one coming in and I'm not paying attention, we'll need to pause.
Sure.
For that. Okay, so let's give everybody a little background on the interaction that happened with the IRS. I'm going to let you walk us through the notices as I pull them up. Make sure I actually have the correct thing. Get rid of this so I can see it. Okay, so what's this first thing we're looking at?
Okay. So this was the first correspondence I received, and they basically were telling me that I had credits from December of 2020, and I've never gotten one of these letters before. My first response, because I didn't know what to do, was to call them, actually. So I called them and asked them what this was, and they said it was correct and that a check was on its way, and I didn't need to do anything at this point. So that's where that letter came in.
Okay. All right. Now this is a double page. This is your second correspondence that you got from the IRS. It's dated August the 5th. Let's give a little explanation about that.
Okay, this one was a letter that I received from somebody named Sharon Davies, I believe. There must be a third page to this one. Yep, okay.
There is.
And they were basically telling me that I now owe them, because I think with this letter there was another one that came with it. And it basically was saying that I owed them the money back that they said that I had overpaid plus interest. And it wasn't just a little bit of interest. I mean, at one place in the letter it even says they can charge up to 47% interest.
Who says they're not greedy? Okay, let's go to the next page. I believe this is the one you're talking about that probably came with it, but actually, according to date, came about 19 days later.
Yep,
they might have come together and they were just dated 19 days.
Right. So that was the letter that went with that one, with the crazy interest on it. And it's like pages of, you can look here and you can look there for this information, and if you don't do this, we're going to do that, and yada, yada, yada.
Okay, so to give you all a little background what's going on here, the IRS can do nothing without somebody giving them some information. So what the first credit was that Jade's accountant or CPA, whoever does her 941, which is payroll taxes, had sent in the money, the check, and with the 941 most likely, but show you how slow they are, they deposited the check and sent out a credit before they processed the actual coupon that would show what it was applying to. So this shows you how organized they are. All right, so by the time August rolls around, they've had a chance to process the coupon, which shows where the tax goes, and now not only does she not get credit, she owes more than they were going to send her. So that tells you that that's not right, because she had actually sent the check. Unless, did they send you a check?
No. Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
That's fine. All right, that explains it. We've never addressed this, folks. So they actually sent her the check, and that she sent them. She's put it back in the bank. Now they're saying, oh, by the way, that's our check. So it's funny, hilarious. Okay, so now go in here page by page to kind of explain why they're charging her this outrageous fees. And then now we're at September the 27th. You want to explain what happened when you saw this one?
Tiny little heart attack, probably, but I expected I wasn't going to be able to access my accounts, or something was going to, and I did not respond to these letters. I mean, the only response I had was the phone call, and I think it was because I knew what was going on, but I didn't know the best way to word it, and I knew I could no longer call them, that I had to do everything in writing at this point as well. But I think this is when I probably met you, and you probably saw my writings on the board, and I was freaking out, like, what do I do here? I'm running out of time. I need to respond to this, and I don't really understand what I'm doing, and that's why I took this course, and I'm not getting anywhere.
Gotcha.
So, so I was a little nervous.
Now I'm going to take a time out, because again, we've got a little script we're going by because we've coordinated this, but also I have to preempt some things. A lot of people, the number one question they say was, how come so many people talk about getting their wages garnished, or their accounts frozen, or wind up going to jail? Well, those are people who don't respond properly. They either don't respond, which a lot of people are just like Jade, they freeze up, they don't know what to do. It's like, I guess you can imagine being rounding a corner and seeing a lion, and he's hungry. And you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. So you just wait for it to devour you. You know you can't outrun it. You know you can't outpower it. You have no strength to do anything other than maybe sit there and wet your pants. And so, fortunately, I never challenged the system until I went through Aaron Russo's documentary on it. And that gave me enough confidence, that in Scripture that I studied, to know that, hey, it doesn't apply to me. Okay, so I was very fortunate there, and so that's the kind of the stuff that I'm sharing with people. So at this point, I can imagine that Jade is freaking out. We got something out of place here.
Did I do it wrong again?
Well, let me see if I can find your copy. You don't. There was the one that you wrote that you said you found. It's not in here.
Oh, I didn't put that one in there, but I can read some of what I wrote. It's all over the board.
All right, what we'll do, so to set the background, we've gone through this law class that it's called Law Common to I. And, you know, they encouraged us to write these notices or these correspondences to people. And they never addressed an IRS one because the people who held the class said, you know, don't deal with it until later, and they just gave some more short ones. So what Jade's going to do is read her first correspondence that she came up with, and I'll try to remember it and point out the negatives that were in there. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So it said, greetings to the woman known as Sharon Davies, who sometimes acts as program manager. I, a woman, Jade, have not contracted with you. I did not make an inquiry on February 15, 2021, as noted in the enclosed notice from you. I state that there is no evidence of claim against I for a wrong. I do not act as a tax collector for you. I do not have property within and do not conduct commerce within the boundary of Ogden, Utah. And then I said, please correspond in writing within 15 days of receiving this notice. If I do not receive correspondence within 15 days, I will consider your claim null and void. I charge $100 per minute as compensation for further correspondence from I. And then I signed it with my name.
Okay. Okay, so what happened here is, first of all, Jade, in ignorance, had lied. She said she didn't contract. Well, yes, she did. She paid CPA or something to send a 941 in, which contracted her. Okay, so to then come across as a threat that you're going to charge and that you didn't contract, that's being false. So one of the things that I try to tell people is, as a man or woman, you and I have a right to make a mistake. And when we make a mistake, we have a right to correct it. And as an honorable man and woman, if you make a mistake with me, I have a duty to forgive you. This is as simple as it is. You know, I mean, if everybody thinks that there's somebody here that's perfect, you know, and that they don't make any mistakes and they'll never need forgiveness, well, first of all, I wouldn't want to meet them because they're a liar. But secondly, I wouldn't want to meet him because I want to see the fool that thinks he's never going to make a mistake. Okay, so to live at peace, we have to have an understanding that when somebody makes a mistake, we owe it to them to bring it to their attention and then allow them to correct it. Okay, so if you take a couple of things that you should have noticed and you can play it back, you'll see that besides the fact that she claims she hadn't contracted and she's not a tax collector, she actually had. She actually is paying someone to do it. And so, but what she did is she, in ignorance, was doing something that she didn't have to. So now what we're going to do is we can go to the letter that I showed her that she wants to write. Now, I'm not going to read this. I'm going to let it be on the frame for a minute as soon as everything disappears here. Because I want to cut this thing as short as I can. This should be clear enough that you can freeze the video, read it, and get the gist of it. Well, I'll go ahead and give you the gist of it. The gist of it is oh, I've made a mistake. I thought that everybody had to pay income tax. But I found out by reading the law, blah, 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 that only a U.S. person that's transferring income to its foreign owner is required to withhold and pay taxes. And since I'm an American company, I shouldn't have to. That's just in a nutshell. That's what she did on October the 8th after getting that September 27th correspondence from the IRS and talking to me. There inside of a week or so, we corresponded back. And I think I charged you, I don't know, 25 or 50 bucks to do this. Be straight up with everybody. And you know, and I would even talk to the IRS for you. I don't mind putting my name on it. I'll do it as one of my persons. Okay, so then explain what this next document is.
So after I sent my correspondence, I got this letter from somebody else named Brian R. Wright, and they were requesting 60 days to, what they said was to decide what we're going to do with your account, which I believe was probably a fear tactic. But, yeah, so So that was the next letter I got, so I had to respond to that one.
Okay, so explain, when you did a little research, who Brian R. Wright came up on the internet.
Yeah, if you do search for Brian R. Wright, there's actually a lot of names, or a lot of people with that name, but one that came to the top of the search engine was actually a man who has had similar issues and has done the same thing we're kind of doing, and has written letters, and he's written a book actually and shared his experience with working with the IRS at this level. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I know I shared with Wic and both Wic and my husband that I felt that they were trolling me at this point because they put somebody's name in there that had this background.
Right, it's funny. You know, to give you a little quick story, when I was dealing with the state revenue, I did the same process, but they were hard-headed. They were difficult to deal with. Took a little more, but one phone call I made, I talked to 3 agents who all 3 gave me their name and their ID number, and then the third one says, I'm going to put you up with our tax expert. I'm thinking, like, tax expert? I thought all y'all were tax experts. You work for the tax department. And so the guy answers the phone. He said, this is Taylor. And I said, do you have an ID? He said, no, Taylor's good enough. I said, is that your first name, last name? He said, just Taylor. That's good enough. So we went through this little discussion, and he said, so you're a tax protester? I said, no, I'm not a tax protester. I pay all lawful taxes. I said, I just note this is a voluntary system. I've already talked to the IRS. They told me I didn't have to. And so if the states require me to, I'd like to see it, the law in writing so I can consider it. And he says, well, I'll just read it to you. And he started reading me some codes. And I told him, I said, dude, I said, you just read codes and statutes. That doesn't mean that it applies to me. I need the written law so that I can say, well, Mr. Neal, bottom line is if you don't pay your taxes, our roads would fall apart and our schools wouldn't exist. Well, I'm thinking to myself, you dummy. Property tax, among other things, is paid for by or schools are pay for schools, and then roads are kept up by gas tax. That's got nothing to do with state revenue. And so he says, and the bottom line is the state of North Carolina won't discuss this any further with us. I said, well, great. Then that means I'm right because you hadn't sent me the law, and I won't have to talk to you anymore. Okay, have a great day. And hung up. So then the next time I got a communication, I can't remember if it was a letter or a call, I just went straight for a supervisor. Supervisor got online, and she said, oh, yeah, I see, this gentleman was Taylor Neal, or Neal Taylor. And I said, how ironic, my oldest daughter is Taylor Neal. You almost think that he probably pulled that off an old tax return where she was listed. But, you know, who knows. And she said, well, Mr. Neal, bottom line is we don't normally answer these things unless they're submitted in writing. I said, well, then why don't you refer to the first correspondence that I sent you in writing? She says, oh, I see that. So I said, oh, I guess this matter's closed then, right? She says, yes, sir. We hung up. I never heard from him again. So it's all about not being a protester, just asking it to be in writing and prove that it's not voluntary. You know, require in law, legalese can mean voluntary. And that is the loophole that they use to protect themselves when you wind up doing something because you think you have to. Do you remember what I told you about what would probably happen when communicating with the IRS about, like, you know, some kind of communication you get and what they might ask you?
Well, you told me it was they were probably gonna ask for that time to respond.
Yeah, normally it'll take 90 days to respond, and I think it was 90 days to the date.
Probably.
Pretty close. You sent October the 24th, and on January 24th, they spit the letter out to you. This Brian Wright did. And basically my understanding is after 89 days, things are supposed to take a new cycle. So then they can come back at you. Okay, but in this case, I told you they'd probably ask for another 60 days, maybe 90 days. I've heard of both, and of course they did. So this next correspondence, I'm happy to say that Jade wrote on her own. I'm just going to leave her on the screen for a little bit, and then the next one is a follow-up with Sharon Davies. You want to share with them why you sent it to both?
Yes. So I'm going to just enlarge it a little bit here. So basically I wrote back to him, and I just, you know, his correspondence was kind of unclear in my opinion, and it was vague. I mean, a couple places they noted you can write to this address on this letter, you can write to this address at the top of the page, and it's a very short letter. They were saying that they were going to do something with my account within that 60 days or look at my account, and I wrote them and said, I'm not asking you to look at my account, I'm simply asking you to provide me with the written law. This is, like, in my mind, this is such a simple thing to ask for. I'm being honorable here. Why can't you be honorable and just respond with the law? That's all I'm asking for. And if there's a law, I will follow the law. I told them that I would give them their 60 days at their request, and that I would be following up with them at the end of 60 days if it has lapsed to basically close the matter. And then I noted, as you stated, to say that common law commences.
Yeah. One thing, too, something that I've added, I actually probably told Jade to put all rights reserved. That's what a lot of people say. I've since saying retained means you retain them. Some people say reserve means you put them to the side, like your reserve food. You don't eat it. You've got them to the side. So that's one little thing. You can take it or leave it, whatever you want to. It doesn't matter to me. Next question. They were going to threaten to take $8,000 some odd out of your account. Have they taken any money out of any account?
No.
Right. So do you mind explaining what your next step or what we discussed your next step might be?
Well, did we have in there too? I mean, there was another correspondence with. I think I sent that to you as well, didn't I?
Yeah, but that's something that's a little different. We'll touch base on that's going to be a little seamless for everybody.
Okay. So sorry here. Next steps. I'm just going to follow up with them when I'm waiting for that 60 days to pass.
Right.
And if I don't hear from them, I'm going to submit a letter and letting them know I haven't heard from them. And I guess in my opinion, if you haven't, well, it's not even an opinion, it's just if this is common law, they've acquiesced if they don't respond to what I'm stating in my correspondence.
Yeah, just let everybody know what common law is. Common law is that which is common between the parties. So right now with the IRS and Brian Wright and Sharon Davies and Jade, common law is what is communicated. Everyone has a duty and a responsibility to respond. So if the IRS doesn't send her the law, in court, it's an open and shut case. Didn't send me the law? She's not guilty. She's innocent. Okay, so the funny thing is that then she gets this correspondence, let's see here, what date was it? February the 21st, where it says now there was an overpayment and that they're going to apply it to her account. So they're trying to tell her they took that off of the balance. But you know, if you'll notice, there's no in the summary here. There's no documentation about the 8,000 and something. No. And the reason they can't put that there is because they don't have her consent. She has removed her consent through the documentation, so they can't. So what they're doing is they're just going to hang on to the $78 in hopes that she pays something, you know. And but trust me, folks, you won't have to. And I think that's. Oh no, here's
there's another letter. I haven't mailed this one yet. This is going out on Monday.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So this is going to put out on Monday. Go ahead and tell us about what it is.
So I'm just basically telling them that I did not give them my permission to keep that overpayment, and that they did not work for that overpayment. I did not tell them to apply it to anything, and that they need to send me a check for that amount, which, yeah, that's basically what and I also stated, once again, I'm simply asking for one thing.
Right.
And quite honestly, I would really like to see this law. I really want to see whatever. I'm curious. I want this. It's such a simple request. They aren't even acknowledging it.
Right. And the funny thing is that there is no law that requires a man or a woman, only a U.S. person. You have to know what a U.S. person is. And I have lots of U.S. persons. I have multiple LLCs, a few corporations, some trust. Those are all U.S. persons. But they would have to have a foreign owner. So a true tax liability would be a company or a man or woman from Japan opening up a U.S. person to do business here in the U.S. because they don't have the right to do business here. You and I do.
Right.
Then that would truly be a foreign owner of a U.S. person. So when Mitsubishi or Nissan makes what is classified as a profit, that's income, then the U.S. person is required, that would be Mitsubishi of America or whatever, is required to withhold 30% until a tax return is filed. And that Japanese man or woman, they owe us that money. They're doing business here, which takes away from the ability of an American to do business. Okay, so that's why I say it's fine. The IRS needs to stay in place. I think some of these people that are screaming about, do away with the IRS or do a flat tax, they're part of the rulers of evil. Now, let me explain what I mean part of the rulers of evil. They have people who, with full knowledge, are perpetrating this fraud on Americans, and they have people in ignorance, so they really don't mean to. So the counties, the states, they can all generate all the income they need through the monetary system we have without charging taxes on American people. Okay, the problem is that some privately some owners of this private bank called the Federal Reserve are profiting off of what we should be doing for free. We don't need any other organization to come up with some kind of global monetization system. The system works just fine when we learn how to use it. So as you see on my screen here, I have a website that I've created for We Are Watchmen. And so I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to this interview with Jade. In closing, Jade, can you give everybody just a little bit of insight on how your confidence level has increased from when you first started in this venture with the IRS up until today's date?
I feel confident enough where, I can write and respond. I maybe would like you to look at a few things just to make sure. It's nice to have another set of eyes, but I'm feeling like I understand it. I understood a little bit before, but now I fully comprehend.
Right. Yeah.
What this is, why you need to stay in honor, what it means to stay in honor. It's become a part of my my makeup.
There you go. Good. Yeah. All right. So with that, I'm going to close this this interview. And as I usually close all my videos, remember, the time is now. Be a watchman. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day.